Okay, what's good, everybody? It's your girl, and I am back, and we're getting back to business with these chitlins. Okay, I had an opportunity to look at some of the comments, and one of the comments asked me what's the difference between can you show the difference between the membrane and the actual chitlin itself? The membrane doesn't have any real texture to it. It's almost like a balloon or a casing to a sausage, and the chitlin itself has a texture to it. You know, it looks more like a chicken skin on one side. Okay, and the casing doesn't have that same texture. You can almost see through it in a casing type of thing. So hopefully you'll be able to see the difference there. There's no chitlin in this. Okay, so that is the difference between that. I really appreciate your comment. I appreciate you all tuning in. When I recorded the video, it was early this morning. I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning cleaning chitlins. I think like my mother used to do, because as I can recall, she was up in the middle of the night, and it was probably because the stench of those chitlins were so bad. You do all this dirty work while everybody's asleep, and wake up in the morning and it's a pot of chitlins, you know, cooking. So it's my goal to have these 15 pounds of chitlins cooking and done today. But right now I'm still in the process of cleaning. Now, I've been accused of having gourmet chitlins because I don't do vinegars and hot sauce or anything like that, even though I'm sure that they would taste wonderful with hot sauce and vinegar on them. I cook my chitlins a little different. What I do is once we get finished cleaning all these chitlins, we put them in the big pot, because these 15 pounds are only going to fill up the 5-quart pot. It's not going to do much more than that, 5 or 6 quart pot. I boil them down. Now, when you're boiling the chitlins, for some reason there's like this foamy kind of frothy substance that floats off of them, and I skim that off, and I just keep boiling until they boil clear. And in the meantime, while they're boiling clear, or in the process of boiling clear as well, they shrink. They start to shrink down, so that they're not so many, or they don't appear so large in the pot. They start to shrink down and fit a pot, you know, in a more sensible way, not boiling over. They shrink. And so after I boil them in water, and I boil through maybe 3 times until they boil clear, and once they boil clear with no foam or froth coming off of them, then I drain them and put them back into the big Dutch oven and pour a red port over them. So I add port wine on top, a little bit of water, and I boil them down with bell pepper and onion and some pepper to taste, and cook them until they're done. Now, what is done? To me, done is when I take a fork and put them in my chitlin and they tear. Okay? Right to the point of where they just kind of tear easily, like a chicken falling off a bone. It would be a chitlin falling off a fork. That's when I consider my chitlins done. I will show you the process, but as I was watching or reading some of the comments, I did want to answer some of the questions. I think anybody can do this. It's, you know, when you don't have people that do this, this is becoming like a lost art almost. It's not that people don't eat chitlins or don't like chitlins. They just haven't had them since their youth, and they never learned to clean the chitlins. Okay, everybody, thank you for tuning in or staying tuned, and this is part 2. In part 2, I'm showing you the first rumbling boil. In this rumbling boil, we notice that the chitlins have shrunk down to size. As well, there is a white frothy substance that is bubbling off of the chitlins. So what I do next is drain the chitlins and do another rumbling boil, and then move on to part 3. Okay, so we're on to phase 3. In phase 3, I've just drained and washed the chitlins, and now I'm adding the port wine. Port wine, onions, and these are sweet onions. Well, I add some bell peppers. Add a little garlic powder with the onions and bell peppers. A few shakes of some sea salt. Looks delicious to me. The smell is fantastic. Then I add some water, enough to cover. Stir. And I replace the lid and let it cook. And my test for doneness is to pick up a chitlin with a fork and that it easily tears off of the fork. Again, we have added the wine, bell pepper, and onion, a little water to help cover. I seasoned it with a little garlic powder and some sea salt, and starting to come back to a boil. We just let it cook until tender. Chitlin cooking is an all-day process pretty much, so it's not something that you can expect to be done within a couple of hours. I mean, between the time you spend cleaning the chitlins and the time you spend boiling and draining and boiling and draining, the day goes by pretty fast. This is quite a few hours, which is why I refer to it as a labor of love, believe it or not.